It's time. After weeks of waiting for the embargo to lift, we are finally free to talk about very important things. Developments in Benedict and Sophie's relationship.
It's steamy, but so beautiful.
You gotta put your fingers in the holes.
Hello romance girlies, I'm LadyJenevia, and on my channel I talk about entertainment media. In this video, we're going to be talking about episode 4 of Bridgerton season 4. This is the final episode of this part 1 batch, after which you will have to wait for an entire month for part 2 to be released. We are picking things up right where I left off in my previous video about episode 3. We will talk about various details of what happened in Benedict and Sophie's relationship thus far. We will compare how the adaptation plays out relative to the source material book, and perhaps offer a few early opinions and broad speculations about how certain storylines might play out in part 2, or even expand into the already renewed seasons 5 and 6. Episode 4 is the titular episode that we get every season where they name it after whichever book is being adapted. In this case, it's an offer from a gentleman. The offer in question refers to Benedict asking Sophie to be his mistress.
Do you like cheese?
As we discussed in my video on episode 3, this was done differently from the book. The more detailed explanation is in my episode 3 video, but an abbreviated recap is that in the book, Benedict asks Sophie to be his mistress during their encounter at the lake. She rejects the offer, and he coerces her into coming back to work for Violet because he's concerned about her safety, he's emotionally entangled, and invested in Sophie.
You're seriously just making it worse, and I want to go home.
You can't.
Not justifying it, I don't like how Benedict conducts himself quite often, but I'm merely recapping that it's been altered for the show, and much to my delight, it's playing out in a way that I really like. Even when Sophie on the Netflix show arrives at Bridgerton House and finally learns that the job Benedict has secured for her is there, they give Sophie room to push back against this offer. She's written in such a way that she may express her genuine discomfort with putting herself in a complicated situation of working in the family home of a man whom she's falling for but doesn't believe she is allowed to love and be with. But then, Benedict on the show, he explains everything very clearly, of how he did reach out elsewhere, but the wives of those other households didn't want to let her work there. Remember that in episode 2 of this season, Araminta made her threat very clear, that she would make sure that Sophie would never be able to work in that area again. Clearly, Araminta has been poisoning Sophie's good name to the various members of the Ton.
I just heard that you guys are mad at me, but I ain't doing thing.
I do somewhat question how and when Araminta would be able to disseminate that information, since she's never really been shown to have friends or even friendly acquaintances.
Now remember, guys, don't touch anything.
Even Violet doesn't like Araminta, and Violet is mostly easy to get on well with. Perhaps she hadn't burned even more of those bridges with all of the stealing away of various household staff from other families, though I don't think that stealing is necessarily the right word to use, if all she had to do to bring them over and keep them there was to offer them a better salary. Not to mention, if she's stealing housemaids away, people would be desperate and hire Sophie anyway, wouldn't they?
I can always count on her to work on Saturdays, because she can't get a date.
I suppose those details don't really matter in the grand scheme of things, as long as we get our happily ever after and plenty of romance. I would speculate now, without having seen part 2, that they will make it very clear that all of this extra money Araminta is spending to bring on new household staff is money that is supposed to be part of Sophie's dowry that her father left for her. That's what happened in the book anyway. Not specifically that Araminta was described as having spent the dowry on paying workers better wages than their previous employers, but they do use the word embezzle when referring to the dowry that Sophie was supposed to have, but is now gone because of Araminta. Benedict makes it very clear, though, that he doesn't care one way or another about whether Sophie has a dowry at that point in their relationship. But we will get to that once we reach whichever episode of part 2 aligns with that part of the book plot. Back to the show, Benedict says that they will hardly see each other. It's a large house from all that landlord wealth.
An envelope of cash.
Sophie really doesn't have any other viable options, so it's time for her to go inside and meet her future mother-in-law. But before they go in, I love that they give our main couple this moment for her to stand up for herself and dismiss whatever unkind, untrue things are being spun about her, and Benedict reassures Sophie by agreeing with her and saying, "I know you, Sophie. I see you." He does, though. He might not know certain details of Sophie's personal history, her childhood traumas, her biological parents, or the step-family that catastrophically failed her, but he knows her heart. And this is a romance series, so that's the most important thing to know of all. What does your heart tell you?
Huh?
I have mixed feelings about Violet's initial hesitance to hire Sophie. She was at least polite enough to not express those hesitations directly to Sophie, and instead pulled Benedict aside in order to speak with him about this privately. But this idea that she would listen to rumors, when we've witnessed her firsthand see how fickle the rumor mill can be, it seems odd. The way that rumors can be so devastating in the most unjust ways, when the Bridgertons and the Sharmas had to go on a walk of shame together just to try to save face. And yes, they did use the rumor mill to their advantage in season 1 in order to rid themselves of the Nigel Burbrook problem, sent him right off back to Derry.
So good luck, England, or as we say in Ireland, Chucky our law.
But it is very in character for both Book Violet and Show Violet to throw any and all nonsense such as that out of the window and instead focus on the fact that Sophie helped to save Benedict when he was badly injured. That will be the priority reference above all else. And Sophie, knowing how to read and write, and she knows other languages too, she's an icon. She's an academic.
That's very nice. Nice penmanship.
So it's settled. She shall be the new lady's maid for Eloise and Hyacinth, and we love to see that. In the book, she got to spend a fair bit of time with Violet, Eloise, Francesca, and Hyacinth because Francesca had not gotten married yet. So during that love story, she was still living at home with the rest of the Bridgerton family. Thus, Benedict makes his way upstairs while Sophie remains downstairs, being led to the various parts of the house where she will complete the tasks that fall under her new position. Sophie being welcomed into the kitchen where all of the servants are, I love to see that. Don't get me wrong, I look forward to her and Benedict riding off into their happily ever after together, but I do appreciate being able to have these moments of seeing how the people who work for a living are getting on with things in this universe. Gregory has returned home with a small smattering of chin stubble. He still has a baby face though, so it really looks more like costume makeup to me, but anyway.
I hate you! I hate you, Thompson! Benedict, Noah! Penis face!
I don't plan on reading Gregory's book anytime soon. I did put myself on my local library waitlist to reread Francesca's book since I haven't read it in nearly 2 years, so many of the details have faded from my memory. And actually, I also put myself on the waitlist for Hyacinth's book as well. She still looks far too young to have her own season, but the way that she's carried herself through this part of the season definitely gives an impression of trying to build her personality into something that actually exists, as opposed to the more set-dressing type of characters Gregory and Hyacinth have often been on the show thus far. So, I figured I might as well give it a read now and have a sense of any early building blocks they might be doing for the character now that will presumably be developed further in Eloise and Francesca's seasons. Many things could happen in the next 2 seasons, but just based on these 4 episodes, I would speculate that they would keep the book order of Hyacinth going before Gregory. That could easily change though. Much could happen in 50 years, and that's how long it will be before we get to see a 7th and 8th season of Bridgerton, if it carries on with its current momentum and model of production.
It's been 84 years.
Benedict tells Violet he will be resuming his search for the Lady in Silver, and I love how quick she is to jump into action to try to help him find his potential wife.
You took the potion.
Moreover, the fact that Benedict took the extra step of asking Violet to hire the other maid from the Cavender house, Hazel, who was caught up in that horrible encounter with Cavender and the rest of the prowling predators. This is why I like Benedict the best. He's a good person with a kind heart.
Does having a kind heart make you a good nurse?
Sophie unexpectedly joining in on Eloise and Hyacinth's conversation. It's almost more of a tiff that those two were having, but anyway, Sophie having read various books and having opinions about those books, and Eloise immediately liking her for that. I love to see it. Finally, some good food. Now, most of this season thus far has been good, but I'll say it every time I want to. It's good food.
Oh, I got you cheese.
Oh my
gotta stay hydrated.
So much.
They didn't have glass bottles, so we'll definitely hold on to it and recycle.
What am I reading right now, by the way? Well, I am currently finishing the last few chapters of The Sword and the Dollar by Michael Parenti. I need to read all of his books. And I'm also in the beginning stages of reading Penning Poison, A History of Anonymous Letters by Emily Cockayne. They're both history books because the billionaires don't want me to know anything except how to help them maintain their oppressive financial standing.
I see you, Milan! I see you!
By the way, my full reading logs are kept over on my Patreon, among other things. I share every month what I've read and watched and my opinions on those things.
What did I miss?
The oppressive patriarchal values that dictate our education.
In part 2 of Bridgerton season 4, I really hope we can see more interactions between Sophie and the girls, or even just Sophie and Eloise specifically, because I would love to see the two of them talk more about books. I would enjoy watching that far more than some of the other subplots that have been happening in this first half of the season, but anyway.
Not a joke, just a fact.
Sophie is enjoying some socializing with the other servants of the Bridgerton house, and we get a mention of some new neighbors. That's suspicious.
I don't want to talk to you, crazy!
That's not at all ominous. Ominous to literally everyone that's read the book, or at the very least watched my videos going over the book plot in detail. Violet seeks the advice of Mrs. Wilson to be able to invite a gentleman over for a bit of intimacy.
Intimate?
Life is meant to be lived. Is that what we're calling it now?
Is that how old people say sex?
Benedict and Sophie run into each other again. He asks how she's doing, if she's still upset at him for bringing her here, and she's not. She's grateful for the job that she now has and for Hazel having the job as well, and we get some up close and personal yearning. Let me help you with your clothing, help you look your best. It's the way that they're breathing each other's air and standing near enough to feel the heat of the other person. I love that. I love every single bit of that.
Wow! You are such a big man.
Penelope is feeling like she's a pawn of the monarch and all of the mamas in the ton. I have to ask how much longer they're going to drag this storyline out. In the Colin and Penelope book, Penelope retires from being Lady Whistledown. She doesn't carry on with that in the love stories that take place after that love story. She's happily married, she becomes a mother. They found a way to have Penelope's newsletter still be involved for Benedict's season as he attempts to track down this mysterious lady in silver, but it doesn't feel like Penelope has been able to fully realize her happily ever after if we have to continue to watch her be forced to do this and forced by a monarch. That is not the happily ever after vibes I expected to watch her have. She's married to the man she loves, and look at how stressed out she is in every other scene she appears in because of the Lady Whistledown thing.
After all, your queen is a German.
Free Penelope O'Featherington. I said what I said.
So I don't know what else to say. Should I sing a rebel song?
Eloise tells everyone that Sophie speaks Korean, and I have to ask, why have we not given her room to speak it on the show? Let her speak the language. I mean, then we would have to address the fact that the show is maybe not nearly as diverse as it markets itself as being, but we already talked about that in my Blasian Solidarity video essay. By the way, the original version of that video is also published on my Patreon because an insufferable record label tried to pull a rude little stunt involving copyright, so part of that video is now muted. Sorry, nothing I could do, except upload it on Patreon, of course. Violet taking tea with Sophie and trying to make some inquiries about Sophie, where she comes from, thank her again for helping Benedict, and compliment her for how much Eloise likes her. And of course, we all know, Eloise is not easily impressed. Best of all, Violet offers Sophie a permanent position to stay there, have the job security of working for a nice family. And we love that for Sophie. Not as much as we will love her inevitable happily ever after, but for now, I love that. And I love the way that Yerin performs this scene, 5 stars. You can see how she's carrying so much internally, all that she's experienced. And of course, Violet can see that even if she doesn't know all of those details yet. As I've said before, I'm not going to say too much about the Francesca and John intimacy subplot because I would like to see part 2 and follow how that arc plays out in full for this season. But I do want to say I find John to be so incredibly polite and considerate and charming. But back to the main event, Benedict and Sophie having yet another private encounter. She is talking about enjoying the stars while looking out the window. She says that there are noticeably fewer here than at my cottage. And Benedict responds that the natural beauty of the world is dimmed in Mayfair. Translation? That's the pollution of so-called industrialized development.
And that's not my fault, that's science.
The corporations are not nearly afraid enough of the people because they just keep carrying on with this mass pollution. Sophie tells Benedict, I do miss our time in the countryside. Oh really, Sophie? What is this our time? We're an hour, we're a we. It's not a me and you, a you and I, it's a we, it's an us. That does set things up nicely for them to go off and eventually settle down at my cottage. I love Benofi as a couple, I love the romance they've had together thus far, and I'm assuming that they will have an equally lovable, if not more lovable, part 2 of their love story, which is releasing in a month from now. But I do want these actors to have the freedom to explore other jobs. Hopefully they both have their fair share of opportunities, instead of, oh, I don't know, being hired to act in a mediocre movie and then being cut out of it.
I really hope I didn't just accidentally predict that.
Benedict can't help but admit his feelings for Sophie, and she shares how she's been offered a permanent position working in the Bridgerton household. And the way they navigate the delicate balance of this scene is very impressive, because you have to let Benedict be honest about his feelings, or else these two will make zero progress in their relationship. But you also need him to not be overly forward to where he's violating her consent and making her feel pressured to give in because of the position he holds in society as well as this particular family. And they handled this dynamic beautifully. So this way, Sophie is well aware of his feelings for her, but he's also clearly communicated to her that she doesn't need to do something if she's worried about that something jeopardizing her place there.
I see you.
I see you.
A quick sidebar, it's a nitpick actually. I want to ask the audience if you noticed this because I want to know if it's just how the video is playing for me on my device, but when Violet is alone and she removes her robe and she's looking at herself and you can only see her shoulders and décolletage and her face, is it just me, or does it look like her face has a weird skin smoothing filter applied to it, whereas her body looks like a perfectly normal body? Why are you skin smoothing your actors like that? Do you really think that we, the romance girlies, will like the show less if you allow a woman's face to look like a woman's face?
What do you call that?
I've seen Avatar Fire and Ash at least 14 times now at the cinema by the time you are watching this review. Perhaps it will be more by then. You can check my letterbox to know either way. But anyway, I've seen that film in Dolby 3D multiple times, IMAX 3D multiple times. And the way that these digital VFX artists have rendered these characters, I have seen close-ups on the faces of Na'vi characters, where I can clearly see that their skin texture looks like skin, not like a weird Facetune filter, like how Bridgerton attempted to de-age Jonathan Bailey in season 2, which was not in the least bit effective. He did not look younger, he just looked weird.
It makes no damn sense.
So much of the season so far has been fantastic. I'm having a wonderful time watching Benedict and Sophie fall in love. So, the few details of things that don't fully land for me stand out even more by comparison. And actually, once I noticed this skin thing in the disrobing scene, in other scenes with Violet, I felt like I started to notice they were still doing the weird skin filter thing on her. It looks weird. There's nothing wrong with her face. Leave her face alone. Apply the usual makeup for being on camera, give her nice lighting, and that's all that she and other performers on this show need. But if it's not like that on your episodes, let me know. I noticed this on the episode 4 rewatch that I was doing specifically to work on making this review, but I haven't had time yet to go through and see if it's noticeable in the other episodes. Maybe it's something they're doing to other characters, and now that I'm aware of it, I'm going to start looking for it. But anyway, I will rewatch when I can. At the time of recording this video, I've already edited my episode 1 review, and I'm almost done editing my episode 2 review, which probably means very little to you since by the time you watch this video, those videos will already be out and published on my channel. But I'm merely giving you the context of the workflow I have to work on preparing these videos for you to watch in a timely manner.
I'll never do that again, comrades. I'm a man with a fragile brain.
Violet has invited Lady Hollis and her daughter Miss Hollis over, as Violet suspects that perhaps Miss Hollis might be the lady in silver. She's trying to help Benedict with this detective work of figuring out who that lady in silver was. I beg your finest pardon, but the very notion that Benedict would be unaware that the lady in silver is East Asian is absolutely wild to me. Why did we not hire East Asian actresses to play these roles? There's nothing wrong with this turn of events in the plot itself, of Violet inviting a lady over with her daughter because Violet believes that this could be the Lady in Silver. Benedict, regardless of not knowing the full details of the Lady in Silver's face, you can very clearly see while she has the mask on that she's Asian. What are we doing here?
Has the planet gone mad?
Anyway, the fact that Benedict is put off and he visibly winces when Miss Hollis tells Benedict that there's nothing wrong with his French, oh, hilarious, peak comedy. And him being mortified that Sophie walks in on him sitting with a lady that's calling on them, the building tension, the tea is scalding and I'm cackling. The mess of it all, the drama, the very easily solved drama. It would take such a small conversation to fix all of this, but they need to be ridiculous for another episode or two. And then we will figure everything out.
Oh, God.
And Violet observing this entire kerfuffle and then just walking off to leave Benedict alone with Sophie. Oh, you will not tell me her matchmaking sense isn't tingling. She was clocking Anthony and Katani all the time in their season, and now Benedict and Sophie, they're not behaving as ridiculously as those two were, and I say that with every bit of affection that they've earned, because I happen to enjoy each and every encounter that Anthony and Katani had, like it was the pinnacle of television itself. But make no mistake, there's no hiding the yearning in Benedict and Sophie's expressions, the way that they look at each other. Now, it's not as feral in its energy, but it is still noticeable.
Oh, you smell like dick. What the fuck you been doing?
Violet advises Benedict that reality is where love grows. Reality feeds your heart, and it's something he needs to hear so that he will follow the truth of what's right in front of him, which is that he feels a spark with Sophie. His heart is yearning for hers. Mrs. Wilson is helping Violet, as promised, to let the servants off for the night so that no one else besides Mrs. Wilson will be around to help Violet make her rompy-pompy.
It's nothing to lose your minds over.
Sophie is meant to go along with everyone to the pub, and she also informs Mrs. Wilson that she will indeed be staying on in the permanent position which Violet had offered to her.
That's more money than I make in a year.
Hyacinth scolding Eloise for being selfish, self-absorbed, uninterested in Hyacinth's genuine excitement for all of the unbearable tasks of a female aristocrat. If I hadn't read Eloise's book, I might have been annoyed at this naivete-induced hostility towards Eloise's disdain for all this frivolous nonsense that clearly doesn't interest her. But presumably Eloise will be season 5. We don't know that for sure just yet, but it's a very reasonable guess to make. In that case, depending on how close of an adaptation they choose to do, one thing I will note is that in Eloise's book, Eloise felt alone. Colin and Penelope's marriage had just happened because the books are in a different order than how the show has done things, but Penelope is no longer available as someone to keep her company in the spinster spaces of society. And that makes Eloise feel far more isolated and pushes her towards taking certain actions that jumpstart her turn as the main Bridgerton. If the show maintains a certain feeling of Eloise feeling like an outsider, she might feel motivated to run off somewhere and embark on whatever version of her love story that they will do on the show. In the show's canon, she is particularly close with Benedict. So Benedict getting married in part 2 will mean that he's now going to go off and start his happy new life with his happy new wife. Whatever changes they might make for Eloise's adaptation, I do think they will keep her out of the main chaos of the marriage mart, of the ton. So yes, in keeping an eye out for various seemingly innocuous clues or developments that could lead certain characters towards certain things that follow book canon to varying degrees, I would say this small familial tiff tracks. Michaela has just arrived in London in time to attend Francesca and John's small family party. I do hope this means we'll see more of her in part 2 because they've shown us very little of her just in general. I would like to get more of a sense of how they're going to characterize her, how she interacts with more of the characters in this ensemble, and any other details that will lead to Francesca having a love story of her own where she is the main Bridgerton of the season. Actually, let's just quickly go over some of this now before the main event happens. The main event.
You gotta put your fingers in the holes.
Full spoilers for Francesca's book, and I think I've probably explained this in other videos. But anyway, I already gave the spoiler warning in an earlier video about season 4, but anyway, here we go. Francesca really wants to get pregnant in her book.
Now, what is the best time of the month for a woman to conceive?
And she was pregnant, but lost it after John died. Michael is her second love, and her still wanting to have a baby is a major component of the story. You would not be able to keep that exactly as it was in the book if Michael is now Michaela, so I would speculate now, without having seen part 2 yet, that since we've already had Francesca expressing to John that she wants to have a baby and is concerned about the fact that she hasn't gotten pregnant yet, perhaps, mayhaps, they will allow Francesca to get pregnant at the end of season 4, and then she can have the baby and also lose John during season 5, so then in season 6, she would already have her baby in her life and be free to do the love story with Michaela.
Lesbian pudding?
I hope that they will be more sentimental on the show and allow John to live long enough to meet the baby. In the book, we really never got to know John the way that we've been able to do on the show. So yes, I'm feeling sentimental enough to want him to be able to experience that. It will be a tragic and sad ending whenever he eventually passes away. I will not apologize for preferring that he get to meet his baby before that happens. Also, don't be weird about Masali over here. I won't be doing that, and I won't endorse that. She doesn't choose how the story was altered. She's an actor who was chosen for her acting skills. She doesn't write the show.
One of the lessons is caveat emptor.
But now, let's get to the main event. The thing that I am sure will be the most talked about and most celebrated escalation of this entire episode.
I know, it's intimidating to fall for a girl with a strong pelvic floor.
Benedict is going to find his lady love, Sophie, who has to run back inside because, oops, she forgot her coin purse. When whomst should she run into? Quite literally, but Monsieur Capybara himself, who had returned specifically to seek her out. Everyone clapped, everyone cheered. Is this what football fans feel like when their team wins? Who can say? Certainly not I. I loved everything about this. I love that she just looks at him and can immediately tell that he's vibrating with desire for her, and she can no longer resist the feelings that have been scorching her from within. Yes, exactly. Good food. Not just that. Great food. And the fact that the entire encounter is just Benedict being desperate to give Sophie pleasure. What? Though I do have to say, when I was rewatching this episode and simultaneously writing up my reviews so that we could finally talk about this here on my channel, this passionate, enthusiastic encounter was playing out. We're all watching, we're all cheering, and I have the subtitles on, as I often do when watching streaming originals that I'm planning to review. It depends on which kind of screener it is. Sometimes the subtitles aren't available in advance, but it helps me to know exactly what people are saying. What if someone mumbles? What if someone fails to enunciate?
Say goodbye to Debbie.
Anyway, so they're doing what they're doing in the hallway. Wild behavior. Benedict doesn't even know that no one else is around. He just had to give her pleasure. And then, out of nowhere, the subtitle pops up with intense strings playing vigorously, and I burst into laughter. And then I knew I had to tell you, the people who watch my Bridgerton coverage, that that happened. Is that going to be the new code word or code phrase? Intense strings playing vigorously.
Is that a phrase?
No.
What's Violet Bridgerton doing upstairs with Marcus Anthony Copeland II? Intense strings playing vigorously.
Marcus Anthony Copeland II?
But anyway, we love Benedict, do we not? Because poor Sophie had been trying her best to handle things herself and it just wasn't working. She was probably too in her own head.
Have fun DJing in between your legs tonight. Wicked, wicked.
But Benedict showed up just in time to help her with that problem. And finally, we get the declaration, or it's not the declaration, but it's a declaration. I'm assuming we will get an even better declaration once Benedict knows Sophie's entire history, and he'll still want her because of course he does. I hope it's good enough to induce weeping.
No, don't cry.
Don't cry. Your tears. It smells so bad.
The truth is, I stay away because you consume me. My eyes search for you in every room I enter. My heart beats when you are near. The reality of you has become more tantalizing than any fantasy ever could be, and one I cannot live without. Bars! I just know he's going to woo her endlessly. Not just in part 2, but in the life that they'll have together, he's going to constantly shower her with words of love. And you know what? That's exactly what she deserves. The drama of this moment, of him asking her to be his mistress, but then she pulls back because she has trauma and she's called away. So she does what? She goes back down the stairs. The upstairs, downstairs of it all.
It's steamy, but so beautiful.
We were so brave just then. Why do they go for the butt so much?
I love this misunderstanding so much more than the toxicity of Book Benedict's archaic pushiness, because Benedict is making her an offer that in this world, with the material conditions and societal constructs that they have, being offered the chance to be a mistress could be seen as an upgrade from being a servant. She wouldn't have to do all of the day-to-day labor of a household servant. Long term, it's not ideal, but in the heat of the moment, it's understandable why someone might take him up on that offer. And Benedict on the show, you can very clearly tell that he doesn't have bad intention. He wants to be with her, and he lacks the larger perspective of the world in general because he lives in a parasitic bubble of landlordism and aristocracy and generational wealth, and more specifically, he lacks the information of Sophie's origin story. Not to mention, he still doesn't know that she's the lady in silver. As much as I would raise my ratings of this show if there was in fact an uprising that overthrew the monarchy and the ruling class, which is oppressing the workers, that's not going to happen. And that's why I keep going back to the cinema to rewatch Avatar: Fire and Ash. Let me watch the colonizers get sucked up into a magnetized vortex that's on fire. That's cinema every time.
It's my favorite movie of all time.
Yeah, me too.
But for Bridgerton, all we really need is for Benedict to find out two things: Sophie's origins and Sophie being the lady in silver. That's it. It's that simple. And he will have the biggest smile of all smiles at realizing that literally all of his problems are solved. Benedict has already said he doesn't care about gossip. He told Violet exactly that when he brought Sophie back for her to work in the Bridgerton household. He's already dated women who work for a living. An illegitimate daughter of a nobleman is hardly a chore for him to accept.
What, like it's hard?
And Violet already told Lady Danbury that she feels this need to protect Sophie. Oh, you mean like, I don't know, rescuing her from jail for a crime she didn't commit because in this version of the story, she didn't actually steal the shoe clips, it was in fact Posey who took them? Oh, look at that! An easily fixable obstacle for our main couple to overcome. The story will play out in the next 4 episodes and we will get to see our happily ever after. Why, yes, I'm having a fabulous time, and based on how well this first half went for our main couple, I'm greatly looking forward to part 2. The final dramatic reveal in this episode that they'd already hinted at earlier on is that the family that's just moved in next door is in fact Araminta, Rosamond, and Posey. You just know Araminta had to have been thrilled to get a house that's close enough for Rosamond to keep making futile attempts to land Benedict as her husband. Hilarious. Go ahead and try, girl. He only has eyes and lips and fingers for Sophie.
The tasteful thickness of it. Oh my god.
Let me know if there are any other talking points you would like to cover about either part 1, or perhaps things I will keep in mind when we eventually prepare to talk about part 2. A couple of things for us to keep an eye out for. We need to see if Eloise will start writing to an unseen pen pal in part 2. That would constitute a setup for her being season 5 if they choose to introduce things that early and in that way. To be fair, we don't 100% know if they will keep the pen pal thing because we have absolutely no idea how similar or dissimilar of an adaptation it will be. And this might be early to say, but in regards to how season 4 might end things regarding setting up storylines for forthcoming seasons, I would not mind seeing the Posey Gets Her Man's second epilogue playing out as a B-plot in season 5. A lot of the subplots in seasons 2 onward have just not landed for me whatsoever. If you have your main love story happening with whichever Bridgerton is headlining that season, and then you have another love story with a different vibe that's playing out as a B-plot, well, what's not to like about that? Stick to the romance. We're here to watch this show to see romance. And thankfully, thus far, the season 4 A-plot has been drenched in romance and yearning. And we've still got 4 more episodes of that to watch.
Forever